The more he did to increase the yield of flowers, the less the land was able to produce. Eventually, as each season went by, the yield decreased first 10, then 100-fold, and so on. Most of the land lay barren and still. If Hypen found anything other than a flower growing, he would pull it up by the roots and throw it into the compost pile. As the land grew grey and sterile, Hypen was wasted away also. The loop on the top of his head drooped, like a deflated tire. His desire to make his chunk of land a happier place with flowers had died. He spent his last days worrying and hovering over the last few flowers that had struggled desperately to grow to maturity in the dust. He could not afford the time it took to weed the desolate fields, but only a few spindly vines grew here and there in the depleted soil anyway. When the last flower died, so did Hypen Noopen. Willie's chunk of land flew off into space, with Willie still inside his little red-roofed house. Ottoborg never saw Willie again. What Ottoborg did not know, which this well does, was that Willie's chunk of land drifted into the most dangerous part of space. You see, there were these nasty creatures called Victoids that flew about looking for food. Victoids had a giant nasty mouth full of giant nasty fangs, and of course the hair that they were covered with was nasty. Anyway, 4 Victoids stumbled upon poor Willie Trombone, who was alone just floating through space for quite some time. Willie, being the friendly type, held out a friendly hand and beckoned them. "Hey, hairy friends!" The Victoids screamed with glee when they saw Willie's yellow, supple flesh. They figured that he was not a fool, and that they would have to trick him before they could eat him. They were wrong, for Willie Trombone was a fool above all other fools, and all of the time they had spent trying to trick him only gave the drifting giant big robot Bill enough time to arrive. Bill reached out with his mighty 3 arms and grabbed the floating chunk of land and hoisted himself up. Bill grew horrified as he saw his creator's son about to be devoured by vicious Victoids. That evening, Willie Trombone dined on Victoids, saving their pelts to use as blankets on especially cold evenings. Willie and Bill became close friends, and they enjoyed each other's company for a long time floating in space, until one day they saw something very far away, something like a being in distress. Allo Al kept a journal after Ottoborg's world broke into chunks. Here is copied the only known surviving excerpt from that diary. My chunk of land was whooshed through a mysterious cloud of blue gas. The cloud is larger than some worlds that I have seen. I made a spur-of-the-moment decision to jump off the chunk and onto the gas. There is such a clutter of junk on the outer surface of the blue gas that it is virtually solid, yet kind of springy-sprungy. Wow, am I tired! I think I will lay myself down to take a snooze on the junk that clutters the surface of this blue gas, for I have not slept since before Ottoborg's world fell apart.